It is my great pleasure to be here at the Arsha Jyotish International Kumbh Mela 2023. I think you are also in your 20s, many years that you have been doing this Kumbh Mela, and I'm really honored and happy to be part of this and part of this esteemed group of astrologers, and Meenakshi and Saurabh and all the others, Rakesh ji doing such excellent work. And today, for this conference, I'm presenting new stuff for me. Other people may have presented, but so this is a fresh presentation that I'm doing, and I'm talking about moon and relationships. And this photograph is from the Moon Temple in Chennai. We had gone there in 2020, just before the pandemic, and we did a puja there, and this beautiful, all the white flowers for the moon. And they have a special deity for the moon. And this is me in India again. I'm at the Ashwini Nakshatra temple, and I thought white, I'm wearing white for the moon and white here as well. And my website is komilla.com. You can look up all the details from it as well. And so I have shared the presentation, and you will be getting the presentation with Meenakshi. And so just don't share it. It is, effort, work that I've done. I did, but I do appreciate all what you do. And so let us begin the chanting. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakareshu Sarvada. Om Dhanamulam Gurur Murti Pujamulam Gurur Padam Mantramulam Gurur Vakyam Mokshamulam Gurur Kripa. Om Adityaya Somaya Mangalaya Budaya Cha Guru Shukra Shani Bhyascha Rahube Ketave Namaha. Om Devanam Cha Rishinam Cha Gurum Kanchan Sannibham Buddhi Bhutam Trilokesham Tam Namami Brihaspatim. So I just wanted to share, this photograph is of Sage Parashar, and it's saying by mistake here Dakshinamurti, but it isn't Dakshinamurti, it's Sage Parashar. And I took this photograph in Madurai. There's a temple there called Tirupara-Kundram, and there they have the Devata, idol of Sage Vedvyasa and Sage Parashar. And they gave us special permission to take the photo. I should just change this. And one sec, because that's wrong. And usually when I'm doing the mantra, I have my eyes closed, so I'm not seeing what is there. And, this Navagraha is from my local temple here I live in Brentwood, California. And this Navagraha is from Livermore Temple, which is about 15 miles from where I live. And so just want to give a little introduction to myself. I have a number of books that are available, and you can get them wherever books are available. My latest book is on Shodacha Varga, but I have these other books, and you can get them from my website, or you can get them from wherever, both in physical copy as well as downloadable. And every year I do a trip to India, and next year it's on the 27 Nakshatra temples, and it's January 24th to February 9th. All the details are on my website. This particular temple photo is from Bharani temple. And my online courses, 2024, they begin in March. I have 4 online courses every year: Foundation, Rules of Interpretation, Prediction. Advanced course changes every year. And next year's advanced course is on planetary yoga. So you can look up all the details. So now let us start with the subject. So as I was saying, that I'm very honored to be part of the Arsha Vidya faculty, and all the wonderful work that is done. Arsha Jyotish, actually, Arsha Vidya is where they meet at the ashram. The conference is happening live and online. And I want to honor Rakesh ji and Meenakshi and Saurabh and all the others who I don't know. And today, my topic on moon and relationships is a totally fresh topic that I've prepared for this conference. So it's something that I've always thought about, and this photograph is of moon from the moon temple in Chennai. So the most important factor about relationships is that the quality of relationships is as important as the longevity of it. And you see, we always think, okay, we should have a long relationship, but sometimes if it's a long and unhappy relationship, then that's not what we want. And when I'm talking about relationships, I'm talking about marriage, and I'm talking about long-term relationships, because some people now, especially in the West, will have a long-term relationship without having the official system of marriage. Whereas in India, still marriage is very important. And but that's why I just put relationships rather than specifically marriage. And we want that we should have what makes us happy and contented. The main idea is to have good long-term relationships. No relationship is ideal. Therefore, various fast festivals are celebrated to honor the relationship and promote longevity as well as auspiciousness, so that they bring happiness to both. So, but before we can focus on compatibility relationship, it is important to examine our charts to study the promise of relationships and their quality. So what is the Rashi Chakra promising? What is there in the chart? If Rashi Chakra does not promise relationships, a good compatibility cannot deliver them. So you see, what happens is everybody says, oh, I was so compatible with so-and-so, but my relationship didn't work out. I did the Kuta system and it was like 30 out of 36, but it just crashed. So there are certain things that we have to look at the Rashi chart and to look at that to see. And moon is the key player in relationships. The role of the moon in our chart is key to enjoy a happy relationship. If moon is compromised in our chart, it will create an unsettled mind and also create unhappiness and discontent. And that is not so rare, because moon has easier to be compromised. Moon rules the mind, happiness, peace of mind. Any difficulty to the moon would show up immediately in your relationships. So it does not mean that we do not experience the relationship, but it spoils the quality of relationships if we do not address this through remedies to support the moon. So you see, what I'm not saying that if you have a problematic moon, you don't have relationships, but what is essential is that we should also consider how we are supporting our moon. That means how we are supporting our mind and how we are supporting the moon. So you see, central to Jyotish and Vedas and spiritual ideas is that we are helping ourselves. You know, we are not just saying, oh, this is a problem and we are not doing anything. Only thing is, often we only learn all these things later in life, you know. So if we were having a Vedantic education, then we would be better served with that. So what are the things that we are looking at when we are looking at moon and relationships? So the first important thing is the natal chart, your birth chart. The impact on the moon can be in the natal chart. So what are the things we are looking at? Challenging conjunctions with Saturn, Mars, Rahu, Ketu, aspects of malefics, lack of benefic aspects. Then Kimadruma moon, actually I have a separate page for that. Kimadruma moon, isolated moon, Manasa Nakshatra, malefics in Manasa Nakshatra will bring an unsettled time, create depression too. Manasa Nakshatra is the 25th nakshatra from the moon. So what we are looking at is, first we examine the birth chart to see what are the aspects that are there, and especially challenging conjunctions, Saturn, Mars, Rahu, Ketu, those are really difficult. And then Manasa Nakshatra, it's the 25th nakshatra, and this is a very important nakshatra as far as how our mind is operating. You see, moon is operating our mind, but there's a nakshatra that is a special nakshatra that we have to look at. So here we have Prince Harry, and we can see here that he has a Kimadruma moon, Kuja Dosha. I'm going to address these separately as well. But Kimadruma moon is isolated moon. And if we look at the chart from the moon lagna, so firstly from the lagna, you can see Mars is in the 12th house. This is a Kimadruma, a Kuja Dosha position. Kuja Dosha is also known as Manglik. Mars from the 12th house aspects the 7th house. So that is one of the positions and is studied for disruptive issues. But if we look at Prince Harry's chart from the moon lagna, what we see here is Rahu is in the second from the moon, but Rahu is not a supportive planet. So therefore, he has no planet supporting his moon. So the mind is very isolated. And when you have an isolated mind, moon, you feel nobody's bothering about you. You kind of move away from your support system. You don't think that people concerned about you. And the same can happen in relationships because, you know, when we form a relationship, we want that we should be supported by the relationship, and we should have you know, companionship. And then there is a cancellation of Kimadruma, because cancellation comes if planets are in Kendra. But remember, one important rule about cancellation is that cancellation doesn't mean that everything gets resolved, but it means that you have a problem and you can resolve it. So the problem exists. And of course, if you are not living in a life of self-awareness, then the problem can get aggravated. And he does have Saturn in the seventh from the moon. It's exalted, but Saturn's aspect is exact straight aspect onto the moon. So that is an aggravating factor. And from the moon lagna, again, Mars is in the eighth house, which is Kuja dosha. And he has Jupiter aspecting his moon, so that is making a bit better situation for him. But we are not just looking at his present relationship. Prince Harry, he has had many relationships before he got married. But the point is this, that this isolated and feeling I'm alone. And also, if you look at his moon, his lagna and sun, they're all in fire signs, so there's a lot of fiery energy for him. And we see his dashas, and dashas, of course, are decided by the moon. And here what you can see is that little bit of moon dasha you can see, but he got moon dasha finished at 15 years. So from 5 to 15, moon dasha was there. So this isolation, he lost his mother, Princess Diana, at that time. So this isolation became part of who he was, followed by Mars. And Mars being in Kimadruma Yoga, so therefore that is there. And then he's right now in Rahu Moon Dasha. So that sense of isolation is very strong. Actually, I had used this chart somewhere else, so the now is an old one. But right now, if you see 2022, and so this is the time when that Kimadruma is really on, and Rahu Moon enemies to each other. So the Rahu Dasha is challenging, and here, it's sort of like the mind is going every which way and doesn't know how to deal with things. So very important to think about remedies. Good news is 2025 start of Jupiter Dasha, and Jupiter is in Sagittarius in dignity. But the point is of Jyotish is not to scare you or worry you, is to make you aware that this exists so you can do something about it. Once you start doing things, then you can improve yourself. Now, this is another case of Kimadruma Moon. This is a Bollywood actor, Vinod Khanna. He was a very charismatic, famous actor. He left everything, and his marriage also. He was following Rajneesh Osho, and he left his career, he left everything. And here what you see is that again, the Kimadruma moon is the isolated moon, and the moon lagna, as he doesn't have Kuja dosha because Mars is in the sixth house here, Mars is in the 10th house here. But again, you see the moon isolated to start with, then two cancellations are there. But moon is also Parivartana Yoga with Saturn. And when he came back, he left India. He was in Oregon with Osho. Then he came back. Then he got remarried again. But you see this isolated moon, it's very important that if you have it, then you have to consider and think about it, that what is it that, it's not other people who are creating the problem. There's something within you that you need to address and work with that. And here we have a moon, a troubled moon, really, a more complicated aspect. Often what you see is that just one thing, I'm concentrating on the moon. There, a lot of scholars have spoken about other things, but here Robin Williams, he was had a very troubled, difficult energy in his life. And you see here his moon Rahu conjunction is on. And but added to that, his Lagna Lord is in a super tight conjunction with Ketu. And then both moon moon Venus are with the Rahu Ketu axis. So you see the moon Rahu, and when you're a celebrity and famous and everything, then you are not having the right guidance, you know. I can't say everybody is like that, but you are also getting a lot of enablers who are pushing drugs and things like that, that cause further problems to the situation. So here we see that the moon Rahu combination. So to me, when I'm looking at charts of clients and things, I'm not saying, oh, you can't have relationships. I'm thinking you need to support yourself. You need to work with it. And Robin Williams was also married, divorced, married again. You know, so it's not the marriage, it's the quality of the relationship that we are looking at. So in Robin Williams' chart, the Janma moon has a problem with the exact moon Rahu conjunction in Aquarius. So moon's position is always called Janma Rashi. You have Janma Lagna, Janma Rashi is the moon's position. Then Mars Kuja Dosha, it is also called Manglik. Kuja Dosha is a name for Mars. Dosha indicates difficulties. This is an important indication regarding breakup of relationships or troubled ones. Mars is a challenging planet for relationships. As a planet of war, he can cause conflict, violence, anger, frustration, breakup of relationships. This is not a talk about Mars and relationships, but Mars has to come in because we have to study the Kuja Dosha from the moon as well. Kuja Dosha occurs when Mars is placed in the first, second, fourth, seventh, eighth, 12th house. And Kuja Dosha is studied from Lagna moon, also from Venus as Lagna. So it's very common to have Kuja Dosha. You see, sometimes it's a big fear about Kuja Dosha because when you are looking from so many different points of view, even Navamsha, you can have Mars placed in a certain way that creates Kuja Dosha. So you have to consider that what is a remedy I'm doing for Mars? So this shows almost half the population can give rise to this dosha. So this is the chart of Aishwarya Rai. And she's a Bollywood actress. And this is Gulika Mandi, if you don't know what it is. But what we see is, as we are examining the chart, firstly, we see that she has a Rahu moon conjunction. So that means that the mind is very unsettled. And then she has Saturn opposite to her Rahu moon conjunction. And Mars in the 8th house. Is South Indian chart here as well. So for yours, I'm used to seeing North Indian, so I tend to point it there. But the thing about Aishwarya Rai is that her earlier life was full of troubled relationships. And let me see. Yeah. So what happened that she got involved with Abhishek Bachchan and wanted to get married. And there was an objection from family and all that, you know, when they looked at the chart, they said Kuja Dosha is there. So she did something very brilliant, was that she went to all the important Mars temples. She went to the 12 Jyotirlingams, which are Shiva temples. She did all the remedies required for Kuja Dosha before her marriage. And of course, you know, she's from South India, Mangalore, and there's a natural spiritual element. And I think that um, uh, since that time, she is flourishing and has a secure, good marriage. But I'm sure that she does a regular remedies for it, because this is a complicated chart. But her earlier, she was involved with Vivek Oberoi, then Sanjay. Uh, is it Sanjay Khan? No, not Sanjay Khan. Oh, I've forgotten his name now.
Salman Khan.
Salman Khan, yes. Getting the wrong Khan. Salman Khan. It was very toxic and destructive relationship. And both of, that particular time. But now she has sorted herself out. So you see that the remedies that she's doing, and at that time everybody knew in India that she's doing the remedies, and I think they chose also a mahurata for marriage, all sorts of remedies you can do, and that help you with that. So Kuja dosha is also, you actually cannot look at Kuja dosha alone, because it is cancelled if the couple both have Kuja dosha. However, there are residual signatures that must be addressed. Remember what I said about cancelled means that it exists, then you can sort it out. Kuja dosha can bring at least one very challenging relationship. And in Aishwarya's life at that time, it was so toxic. And of course, when you're living a celebrity life, then everything's in the press and there's all the gossip and everything. So you see that Mars in the 8th house, and that would have been also emotionally very challenging for her. So this dosha, Kuja dosha or Manglik, is responsible for breakup of marriage, victimization in relationship, violence, even death of partner. Now, what I've noticed is that it's more divorce these days, but originally in India, people used to be very worried of marriage with Kuja dosha, that the partner could die. And but my experience is mostly that because Mars is a warrior, he brings argument and anger and um, irritability. And one of my students was telling me when we were talking about Kuja dosha that, I used to fight morning to evening with my husband. And now I realize after she divorced him that that was a mistake. So, if you have this Mars in one of these first, fourth, seventh, eighth, 12th, any position, and there's no aspect of Jupiter, then you have to be the Jupiter. You have to see that you have to fight the right fights. You have to argue, not just wastefully argue all the time. That is very important, that you learn to work with that. So here we have another chart, and this is Meghan Markle. And you saw that in her husband's chart, Prince Harry, he has Kuja dosha and she has Mars in the 12th house. So 2 Kuja doshas cancelled. But she has other issues here. If we look at her chart, the Lagna Lord, Moon, and Moon is a Lagna on its own, is with Saturn and Jupiter, and Saturn and Jupiter are in planetary war. So therefore, her mind is always residing with conflict. So this is something that is very important if you have a combination, to try to detach and step away from conflict. And here we have the Moon Lagna. So Moon Lagna doesn't have Kuja dosha, it has Mars in the Lagna. But you see, Saturn, if you see here also, Saturn and Jupiter in a planetary war, and Moon is there. Now, one very important thing when you're looking at the Moon-Saturn conjunctions is that here Moon is applying to Saturn. That means it's coming closer to Saturn. And therefore, her emotional state is always seeing Saturn ahead of her, the planetary war ahead of her, and also, Saturn, which brings coldness, detachment, distance. And again, Meghan has been divorced before, and this is her second marriage. But you see, this is an aspect that needs to be addressed. And just going back to Aishwarya Rai's chart, this whole principle I was telling you about applying conjunction and separating conjunction. So in Aishwarya Rai's chart, her moon is 19 degrees 35. Rahu is 7 going backward. So here it's separating. Rahu is going this way, moon is going this way. And even Saturn, it's exact, but not so exact. Moon is moving away. So it's easier for maybe Aishwarya to witness her issues and to detach herself than it is in Meghan's chart, where the moon is applying to Saturn. And therefore, that's an important aspect. And I have a moon Saturn conjunction in my own chart, but a separating one. And when I was younger, it was very bothersome to me. But now I realize that that subtle difference, that separating conjunction, means that I can step away from it. So that is why I always look at this aspect when I'm looking at a conjunction with moon Saturn or moon with any planet that is there. So here, one of the issues that Meghan Markle is dealing with right now in her marriage to Harry is that she's in Jupiter Dasha, and then Jupiter will be followed by Saturn Dasha. And so one of the issues of her life is the Jupiter-Saturn planetary war. Now, Jupiter-Saturn planetary war is the rarest of the creatures because Jupiter-Saturn come together once every 20 years. So the planetary war, if they are going to have a planetary war, it's once every 20 years. And also in the Dasha period, Jupiter, Saturn, they follow each other, dashas. And then here the moon is involved. That means that the moon is attached to this. Also, Meghan was born in moon dasha because her moon is in Hasta Nakshatra. And so, the moon dasha birth as well, that means there's something right at childhood that she was dealing with these issues. And then but right now you see that from 2015 right up to 16 plus 19, 35 years of these two dashas that are part of her psyche, and that needs to be addressed. So then the next thing that we are looking at is the transit of the moon. So even if you have a good moon, we get impacted by the transit of the moon. What are the things we have to consider? Waxing, waning cycle, monthly conjunctions of the moon with malefics, eclipses, solar and lunar. These cause daily stresses, which can bring problems to us, therefore to our relationship as well. Okay, so you can see moon is in Capricorn and Saturn is in Aquarius. So if we look at the transit of the moon, and this is like just for the next few days, what you can see here is that tomorrow moon is in with Saturn, and my class tomorrow at this time moon will be with Saturn, and then a little bit later tomorrow there's an exact moon Saturn conjunction. So you may just feel heavy about timing is for California. So you can see this timing here. Moon Saturn. So it's about 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, Moon Saturn conjunction is there. Then a few days later, and this is on 13th, exact Moon Rahu conjunction. So this is not in your chart, but you are experiencing it. And then moon is also going towards new moon. So it's a dark moon in a few days, 15th, 16th, I think, 17th is the dark moon. 17th is the dark moon. And then if we go a few days later, there's moon with Mars. So you see, this is happening on a regular basis. And then we have the next set of eclipses. Eclipses don't happen all the time. The next set of eclipses we are going to have is in October, 14th and 29th of October. Actually, the lunar eclipse, solar eclipse is visible in USA. But the eclipse time, the mind is just naturally stressed. So the problem happens in all these cases is that if you're not aware, you can institute an argument, or you can feel depressed on that day, and then it can affect your relationship, other things as well. And the solar lunar eclipses, whether they're visible or not, it's a very unsettled energy. I like to call it the eclipse season. That means from one eclipse to the other is sort of 15 days that we are vulnerable to the experience. So that is a important factor to consider. Then this is just not enough. We are looking at key Saturn transits to watch, which impact the moon. So one is moon's own transit. Then the second one is the Saturn transit to watch, which impacts the moon, therefore can impact relationships too. So there are two or three transits really that you're watching of Saturn. And there may be others, but Sade Sati, which is a 7.5 year transit. The peak of Sade Sati is when Saturn transits over the moon in Janma Nakshatra of the moon. This lasts for 1 year. So right now, if you're Aquarius moon, then you are experiencing intense Sade Sati. On 17th of June, Saturn is going to station and retrograde at 13 degrees Aquarius. So if you have your moon at 13 degrees Aquarius, it is even more challenging for you. But Saturn will then retrograde back and come back to 6 degrees Aquarius on 4th of November. And, this is time again that will be a pressurized time. And then the 25th Nakshatra transit is the transit as Sade Sati begins, Saturn transits through 25th Nakshatra, and it's sort of the kicking off of the Sade Sati. And I just want to show you this transit right now, because we are kind of just about to experience it. And so I was showing you the chart, and so if we look at Saturn is 12 degrees 57 today, and today is 8th, and on 17th, Saturn is going to go retrograde. And you see now it's gone to 13 degrees. And it actually remains 12, 13 degrees for 2 months. So if your moon is under those degrees, then there we have, by 18th, Saturn is retrograde. So then that means that your moon is getting under super high pressure. And then if we look later on, and now we are in October, and see Saturn has gone 6 degrees of Aquarius, and this is where it will station. And by 5th of October, you see the station is done. And so that means 6 degrees and 13 degrees are two sensitive points for the moon. And Sade Sati is one area, very much area where it's possible for relationships to go through a very difficult time, because we tend to blame people for our relationship. But also I've noticed that many people get married during Sade Sati. I personally advise during the intense period, that 1 year, not to get married at that time, because you're marrying with that challenging Saturn transit over your moon. Then that is not the best time to get married. Then Ashtama Shani, Saturn's transit to the 8th house. This is a destabilizing transit. So right now, if your moon is in Cancer, then you're experiencing Ashtama Shani. Actually, Ashtama Shani can be also from the Lagna position. But if your moon is in Cancer, or your Lagna is in Cancer, then Saturn is transiting your 8th house, and that can impact relationships as well. So these are times when I'm looking for situations. So this is a Bill Gates chart, and Bill Gates' moon is in Uttara Bhadra Nakshatra. So what is his Manasa Nakshatra? If we go backwards, 27th Nakshatra is Purva Bhadra, 26th is Shatabhishak, 25th is Dhanishta. So in 2022, Bill Gates, so he's in Sade Sati now, because Saturn is in his 12th house from his moon. But that 12th house from the moon also has Manasa Nakshatra. And in Bill Gates' chart, the Manasa actually begins a bit earlier, because Dhanishta begins at 23:20 of Capricorn and ends at 6:40 of Aquarius. And what are you seeing here? That he's Gemini Lagna. So Capricorn is also his 8th house. And then the Manasa Nakshatra transit is very complicated, and especially if you don't know you are having the Manasa Nakshatra transit. Right now, Shatabhishak Saturn is giving Manasa to Revati moon. So if you have moon in Revati, then you are experiencing Manasa. And basically what happened with Bill Gates is that his wife divorced him at this time, and she also divorced him because of his involvement with the sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. And that particular thing has also ruined his reputation, but definitely giving him a lot of issues. Now, there are a number of extra things you can see. You see, sometimes one thing doesn't make the story. You can see number of extra things. You can see Kimadruma moon, no planet either side, cancelled by Mercury and Mars. Mars is Kuja Dosha, opposite Mars is Kuja Dosha from the moon, Kuja Dosha from the Lagna. And he is in Mars Dasha just now. And if I just bring Bill Gates' chart up here, I don't think I put his Dasha. If you look at his Dasha here, right now, he's in Mars Dasha. So that means that the Kuja Dosha is on for him, and he has and that started a few years before his divorce got finalized in 2022, May 2022, Mars Saturn Dasha. But here we can see the direct Kuja Dosha. And in the Navamsha chart, as you were asking, Kuja Dosha and Navamsha is same weightage you will give. He doesn't have an exact Kuja Dosha, but Venus, Mars are together. So that also, if you think Venus as another important aspect of relationships, so that is there, and they are 8th from the moon in the Navamsha. But you see, the Rashi chart is right in front of you. So if there is something in the Rashi chart that is more important to study. Navamsha is a more hidden experience of the chart. So Moon is in Pisces in Bill Gates' chart. Uttarabhadra Nakshatra, Manasa is Dhanishta. Sade Sati and Manasa transit most of 2022, and Bill Gates got divorced. And not only that, it was a long-term marriage. But it was also very mentally troubled marriage, and lot of the not mentally troubled. He must have been mentally troubled, not the other way around. So you can see this. We are only presuming these things from the chart because we don't really know the person, but you can see how the thing is. Then Rahu Ketu transit to the moon means that eclipses are happening near your moon. We should watch the exact Rahu Ketu transit. If the eclipses are happening in degrees close to your moon, eclipses indicate a change of life, may impact your relationships too. Right now, the eclipses are in Libra Aries axis. So if your moon is in Libra or in Aries, then Rahu Ketu are impacting. From 30th of October, Rahu Ketu change signs into Virgo, Pisces. This is a mean node Rahu Ketu. Virgo Pisces, and Virgo Pisces are going to, Virgo Pisces moon will be going through some change, transformation. You see, the idea is that something is changing within you. And when you are not aware and you're in a relationship, you may think, oh, I should change the relationship at that time. My usual advice is always that when the situation is happening, don't make decision at that time, because if the eclipse is near your moon, or Sade Sati is on things, I mean, that's a time to be restrained and wait till after, not to make decisions at that time, because those are the times that you're most vulnerable. Then Mahadasha, challenging Mahadasha Antara impact the mind, especially of planets that are conjoining the moon. I showed you Bill Gates' Dasha just now, Mars Dasha, so Kuja Dosha is on, even though he's in his 60s just now. And the impact of Kuja Dosha, immediately brought issues with a long-term marriage, that the Kuja Dosha from the moon, from the Lagna. So the Mars Dasha is very difficult. Then Chidra Dasha. Chidra Dasha's end of Mahadasha is always stressful, as we are heading towards a new phase of life. And so, especially I find Rahu Mars Dasha can be very destructive. People can say, I want to change everything, and then they change, and then they come into Jupiter, then they said, why did I change? But I'm always suggesting to clients, if they're coming to me, that if they're in Chidra Dasha, wait to make any decision. Don't have a decision at that time of the Chidra Dasha. And the Chidra Dasha is towards the end of the dasha. Some of these chidras are very long. Say, if you are in Jupiter, Saturn, or Mercury, Saturn, Jupiter, Rahu, Mercury, Saturn, they take like 2-3 years. So what I mean is right at the edge, when you're just about to fall into the new dasha, that is an important time, because sometimes, 3 years, 2 years, it's a long time to make to wait. But I would say, personally, I would wait, but everybody doesn't have the full patience of the thing. So this is a chart of Boris Johnson, and Boris Johnson is the former British Prime Minister, and he's the one who became Prime Minister after Brexit. And it was his kind of egging on people that got Brexit and got UK out of Brexit. But we are not looking at that. Boris Johnson is a very colorful character. And I used to live in UK for many years. And, his love life, romantic life was always being discussed. And he has been married 3 times, but he has had many affairs, very public affairs. He's had children while married to somebody with somebody else. So, when you're looking at relationship for him, so we're not looking politics for him, we're looking at relationships. So a couple of things are here. Seventh lord is in the 8th house. From the Lagna, there is no Kuja dosha. We can see Venus is combust here. So that means that Karaka for marriage. So he was married to his last wife for almost 20 years, but it was totally public affairs with other people, children being born, all those things. And then he divorced her for his present marriage. So, that is there. But if we look at his moon lagna, you see here moon lagna. Again, we have the isolated moon, but Jupiter's aspecting. And then from the moon, again, 7th lord is in the 8th and the Kuja dosha from the 8th, in the 8th house. So, Kuja dosha is sometimes even a silent type of unsettled energy. And if you want to look one further, the lord of the 7th, Lord Venus, is in this trouble. In fact, Boris Johnson, he was in Mercury Venus dasha when he got COVID, and he almost died. It was very serious in 2020. Now he's in Mercury Sun dasha. And here I have his Navamsha chart. And in the Navamsha chart, we can see Moon Rahu there. So moon, wherever moon is there, that's something you want. And Rahu is there. Now, this is not a Kuja dosha. Saturn is, Mars in the 10th house. But from the moon, because this is something additional you can look at in the Navamsha, Mars is in the 4th house. But if you look here again, Venus continues, it's a tight conjunction with Sun. You'll see all the Varga charts, Venus, Sun are there. And then Saturn is in the 8th house. So, moon is surrounded by Sun one side, Saturn one side in the Navamsha. So this is, and with Rahu. So this is a complicated moon. And so you see, when the moon is complicated and vulnerable, we are then trying to find answer. So the answer could be in another relationship, then another one. And Rahu, especially in the 7th house, in the Navamsha, can create the desire, because Rahu is the desire for relationship. So here we see the dashas, and this 2022 now he's in Mercury Sun, but he was, February 2nd, 2022, he started Mercury Venus, and that is the time where he got COVID. He had COVID by March 2020. So that is something quite amazing. That and then he's also got married in Mercury Venus, third marriage in Mercury Venus, and 2 children from that. And then now he's in Mercury Sun, and then he will go into Mercury Moon. So you see, we are just concentrating on marriage and relationships, but obviously these things bring all sorts of other issues as well. So that is something to look at. And then I have Celine Dion's chart, and Celine Dion, Cancer Lagna, Lagna Lord Mars is conjoined, Moon Mars is conjoined together. So she has Kuja dosha from the lagna, not from the lagna, but from the moon lagna, she has Kuja dosha. But her seventh lord, Saturn, is combust and with Rahu. Now she had a long marriage, but she had an unusual marriage. Her husband was much older than her, about 30 years older than her. So that is something that, with the Kuja dosha, we don't have his chart. To see Kuja dosha, you have to look at the partner's chart to judge that, to see what is the aspect there. So then also moon in Nakshatra Gandanta, change of dasha from Mercury to Ketu after birth, if moon is placed in n degrees of sign Nakshatra at the start of life and beginning of Ketu dasha, if moon is placed in early degrees of the sign. Now, last year at the Arsha Jyotish conference, I did a long lecture on Gandanta. So you can buy that if you don't have it already. That was very detailed about the Nakshatra Gandanta. So if you're interested in that, there are 6 nakshatras that are connected to the Gandanta: Ashwini, Ashlesha, Magha, Jyeshta, Mula, and Revati. And if you have the exact degree of Gandanta, that means it's right at the edge, between, I'll just show you a chart here. This is Adele, the singer Adele. She has Scorpio moon at 29 degrees 30. And she has Kuja dosha. And she actually, her whole music is about her love affairs and broken relationships. And I think when she was a breakout star, she did a album called 19. So at the age of 19, she had a breakup, and then she had another relationship. Then recently she got married, and then she divorced as well. But you see that Gandanta, I noticed that in artists, when they have these difficult positions, they kind of put it into their music or their painting or art or acting. So some way that is a relief for them. But the Gandanta is sort of, it's a unsettled energy, and especially the moon Gandanta. But Venus Gandanta or Lagna Gandanta, Venus Karaka for relationships is another thing that you can look at. And then this is Jennifer Aniston's chart, same Scorpio, right at the edge, edge of Scorpio, early Sagittarius. We have again the Moon Mars combination, which is giving the Kuja dosha to her. In her case, she was married to Brad Pitt. The marriage broke up because Brad Pitt was involved with what's her name, Angelina Jolie. So those aspects are there, and in both the charts, in Jennifer Aniston's chart, even from the Lagna second house, Mars is Kuja dosha position. And there, I was just going to look at Adele and see Adele in her Navamsha. Mars is in the 12th house. So it is a Kuja dosha. What is just important to understand is that Kuja dosha is very common. So, you should not just think Kuja dosha, it's all negative. But also the other factor in Adele's chart right now is she's in moon dasha. And she started in 2021. But if you see, moon is in her 7th house. in the Navamsha. So Moon Dasha can bring a serious relationship, which she is in. But Moon Mercury combination, it's a overthinking combination if you have Moon Mercury, because Mercury is the analytical mind, Moon is the emotional mind, and they're both together and in the seventh house. And here, she met her present boyfriend. I think he's still boyfriend, Rich Paul, in the Sun Dasha, Sun Venus Dasha. So the end of Sun Dasha, and then Moon has started. Then Venus as Karaka of marriage can give relationship. But Venus in her chart is also in Marana Karaka Sthana. And again, last year I lectured at Arsha Jyotish on Marana Karaka Sthana. So if you're interested, you can get that video from the jyotish.com website. So now we come to the key factor, is what are the remedies for Manasa Nakshatra and other remedies too. So if there are planets in Manasa Nakshatra, they need remedies. Transit to Manasa Nakshatra, we all experience. But each of the planets, the thing is that you have to study that. You have to look at Manasa, the 25th Nakshatra, from the moon, but also from the Lagna. Both places you should look at. And so sun can bring anger issues, moon too much emotions if you have moon in Manasa. Mars anger, Mercury overthinking. Jupiter usually brings calmness, no need to remedy. Venus, no need to remedy. Saturn is depression, anger, resentment. Rahu is also fear, anxiety. Ketu is anger. Ketu acts like Mars. And the devatas for these planets, if you want to do the worship, sun is Lord Shiva, moon is Shiva, Saraswati, Parvati, Mars is Murugan, Hanuman, Mercury is Vishnu, Jupiter is Brahma, who's not worshipped, so Shiva, Vishnu. Venus is Lakshmi, Saturn is Shiva, Rahu is Durga, and Ketu is Ganesha. These are just simple devatas, means that there's also all sorts of configurations. If you're following the avatara of Lord Vishnu or Lord Vishnu, you can, sun is Rama, moon is Krishna, Mars is Narasimha, Mercury is Balrama or Buddha, Jupiter is Vamana, Venus is Parshurama, Saturn is Kurma, Rahu is Varaha, Ketu is Matsya. You see, the some of the deities, you don't really have temples for them. Although Vamana temple is near Cochin, it's a very well-known temple. Parshurama temple near Tirupati. Tirupati itself, Varaha temple is there. Before you visit Tirupati, you're supposed to visit Varaha temple. Matsya temple is close to Tirupati. And Narasimha is also close to Tirupati. I went to a famous Narasimha temple in Vishakhapatnam as well. So these are some. Ramakrishna easier to worship, but the others are a bit more complicated. You need to know. So as with everything, you have to see what is the support for the Lagna, support for the moon. So if Lagna Lord is strong, that helps you a lot. Because your Lagna is the supporting factor, so you can learn to manage your moon. Jupiter and Lagna or aspect of Jupiter to the moon. Gaja Kesari Yoga to the moon, Jupiter and Kendras to the moon. Spiritual life obviously helps Yoga Vedanta. So when you're thinking about doing remedies, you are thinking on many levels. You're thinking on practical, mental, spiritual levels. So all of them have to be practiced. So practical remedy for moon is that first thing to realize is that moon's transit is very unstable. So we should promote stability in life. Pay special attention to daily habits. Keep regular times for sleeping, eating, relaxation, chopping and changing your life, career, home, all impact the mind and affect relationships. Sometimes you have to change your job because you lose the job. But if you're keeping on changing, you're changing where you're living, you're not creating a stability in you. So, what time you sleep, what time you eat, time for relaxation, time for family, all the things, that the opposite to what moon's transit is doing. And, it will help your children, it will help you, it will help your spouse. It's a very important practical remedy for your moons, and it'll help your relationship. So think about how you can do it. Sometimes too much of it is not necessary, that you're totally rigid about it, but some type of flexibility. Like today, I had to get up at 5 a.m. to get ready for the class. So I get up at 6 normally. So 6 is fine, but 1 hour early, then I was thinking, oh, I should sleep for another hour. But I thought, no. So that, but doing it on a regular basis, sometimes sleeping late, sometimes, and a lot of people don't bother about their food, and then here I've brought lifestyle choices. What are the choices you're making for your life? And this is directly affecting your moon, mind, and then relationships. So food, eating good, seasonal, local food, regular food habits, but also the quality of food. Just eating all the time fast food or eating food on the go. There has to be some type of energy. Mostly people do prayer to the food. They eat it as a very important aspect. Then relaxation, communicating with nature, bringing balance to life, and there is a lot of stress. So sometimes, you can't immediately bring balance to your life, but you can be a work in progress. You can think that is something I want to do, something I want to deal with, and then, slowly you can work with it. Then career choices. If you're in a, stressful career, unhappy career, it will impact your home life. But you see, we were discussing this last week, that sometimes, we have to have a practical career because we need the money. Finances is another big issue that can spoil relationships, but we need the money. So we have to, then if we are compromising because we need the money, we can't always follow our heart or our passion, then that is also okay. But we have to adjust to it, that, okay, this is my karma, I got to do it, I'm working, it's fine. But generally, if you, choosing something totally that is stressful to you and it's causing all sorts of pressure to you, then it's going to affect all areas of your life. So you can again think about that as a work in progress, what you want to do. And as it is a practical consideration, you have to think, money versus, you know, easy job, those things are there that you have to consider. So generally, living a simple life. Try not to complicate it too much. Uh, live a life of restraint. Excessive behavior will also impact your mind and relationship. And sometimes people complicate their life, even say take on too much debt, too much loans, buy a property. I had a client who was having Sade Sati, and she wanted to take an extra mortgage on because she hated the house she was living in, but it was not selling. So I told her, I said, stay in this house, because you are in Sade Sati, you are going to complicate your life too much by moving. So, these are things that you can advise people, but you can also, for yourself, you can think what to do. Then I would say this is a practical aspect. Walk in the path of the planets, aware of their negative, positive influences by dasha and transits. Challenging transits or dashas tend to interfere with all good intentions and will impact the relationships too. So right now we are experiencing some very interesting and challenging transits that can be challenging. And so I already showed you the Saturn turning retrograde, and so this month Saturn is going to turn retrograde, and this is on 17th. So sometime on 17th, it's not retrograde, but 13 degrees. So that retrograde will affect all of us. So, just being conscious of it is helping. I'm just seeing what time there's Saturn. By 10 o'clock in the morning, Saturn is retrograde on 17th. This is Pacific time. Then look at Mars. A few days later, Mars is going to go through Gandanta. And all these actually have a direct effect on the mind. So here's 30th, Mars is in Gandanta. And then a week later, Venus is in Gandanta. So this is 6th of, Venus, 6th, 7th, Venus is in Gandanta. And then Venus turns retrograde in on 22nd, I think, of Venus is retrograde, 22nd, 23rd, here we see retrograde. And then if we go forward, Venus has a second Gandanta, 6th of August. And then it has a third Gandanta on 1st of October. So you see, the point is this, that all these things are just stressful energies, and they may or may not affect you. There we have 1st of October, Venus is in the third Gandanta. And then, but the point is this, that if they are affecting you, they are going to impact in your relationship as well. And sometimes, these energies can make us feel that, my relationship is not working, or I must make some change. And that is where, when you know these transits and it is going to impact all of us, we feel vulnerable at this time. The difference is that how we react to the situation. And that is where the Jyotish is so powerful, because it gives you that ability to understand that what is happening. And it's like a third eye. You can see something that others are not able to see. Then the mental remedies, because actually all those practical remedies come when our mind is at peace. So there's a sort of, I've split them into 3 sides, but they are kind of interlinked. So yoga, meditation, mantra, all bring peace of mind. So learning to manage the Shadripu. These are your personal weaknesses. All of us would have some personal weakness that we have to deal with and we have to work with. And then, so we can recognize that sound therapy. In this, we have chanting, mantras, silence is very important, that is very soothing to the mind, sounds of nature, meditation, dharana. Dharana is concentration, dhyana is meditation. You see, sometimes meditation is not possible straight off. You have to get yourself ready. Keep good company, satsanga. So like what is happening, and I'm missing out in Philadelphia just now, Pennsylvania, at Arsha Vidya. the satsang, the good company that you're keeping in a very good spiritual environment. Then path of yoga, mental, physical, spiritual, sadhana. Sadhana is like that regularity. So, sadhana means you take a project, you continue doing it till you achieve your spiritual goal. But you can do sadhana in your day-to-day life as well, that, yeah, I'm going to have this way, I'm going to structure my life and this thing, and that would be good. Then the Ashtanga yoga. So I want to emphasize that you're not just doing physical yoga. These are the 8 limbs of Raja Yoga. That you can practice. We don't have time to focus on them, but yama, niyam, asana, pranayam, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, samadhi. So yama, niyam, these are do's and don'ts of life, so you have to have some things that you have for, you set up like ethical standard do's and don'ts and things that you have to do in life. Then asana is the practice, and you're doing classical asana, not just doing kind of, there's a lot of now hot yoga, cold yoga, goat yoga, all sorts of yogas. Those are not what we are trying to do here. Pranayam, the breathing exercise, especially if you have moon Rahu or moon, the anxiety, moon Saturn, then pranayam is very useful. Pratyahara is detachment, learning to detach from your desires and senses, because the desires can cause a lot of problems. Then dharana is concentration. So that's what I was saying, concentrate on your job, concentrate on your food, timings of food, concentrate on what you're doing. If you're studying Jyotish, concentrate on it. Don't say, okay, I want to do this Jyotish, now tomorrow I'm doing something else. So that dharana. So you see, dhyana, which is meditation, comes right, it's the 7th out of the 8th limb. So you see, the progress is not that you go straight to meditation. That is why sometimes it's difficult to meditate, because you haven't stepped into the practice. And the final one is samadhi. That is, we are all on path of samadhi, which is very few people will achieve samadhi, but we are all aspiring for that. So then the spiritual aspect is, so you could take the yoga and the mental also as spiritual discipline, but you can do yagyas, homas, shantis, puja to pacify the deities. They also have a role to play, because, all the ritual you do and you participate, it clears the mind, it helps you to, and a lot of pujas are done for marriages. People do homas for anniversaries, annual pujas are done. It's very much part of relationship. Then pilgrimages, temples. There are many pilgrim temples where people go for a long and happy married life or to get married. And there are some specific temples in India that you can go. If you feel there's an obstacle in your marriage, you can go and get a blessing done and a puja done as well. And then donation, giving your time, support, money. That means you're giving something to others, not always thinking about yourself. And especially if the mind is unsettled, you can do karma yoga, seva, voluntary work, selfless service, prayashchit, taking responsibility for karmas, for mistakes. In your, it's more complicated than that, but I'm sort of saying in relationship also, you forgive and, don't hold on to grudges and things like that. So then the final thing is that there are many fasts and festivals throughout the year to promote a long and married life. So basically what happens is that once you have a relationship, then you want to keep the relationship. And all of you who are in relationships are not an easy task. So these things are established for that, so that you are keeping, and you don't have to do all of them, So Friday is an auspicious day to celebrate relationships. So when I go to India, I see people, if I'm at a temple on Friday, mostly ladies coming, they light a lamp, they offer flowers, they offer prasad, they do puja there, and they're all dressed up very beautifully. And it's a wonderful sight to see. And this is something that you can translate to here, that make Friday special. As a couple, no arguments on Friday, do something nice on Friday, dress up well, go out, have a special time. So this, then the fast, there are these three fasts: Vara Lakshmi Vratam, which is the next one up, 25th August 2023. Then Swarna Gauri Vratam, 18 September. It is one day before Ganesh Chaturthi, the Swarna Gauri Vratam. And then Karva Chauth in North India, especially Karva Chauth is greatly celebrated every year. And especially the first Karva Chauth after marriage is one of the big events. This is before Diwali. This year it's 1st November 2023. Women fast all day, they dress up. In the evening, they dress up in their marriage clothes and the husband feeds them. It's sort of like a couple activity, and family and gifts from parents, mother-in-law. It's a very big occasion, and you only eat food after seeing the moon, but you don't see the moon directly. You see the moon in water. And it's beautiful. If I'm in India, I always love it. Everybody's dressed up, and if you go out there, couples, young couples, older couples, everybody doing the Karva Chauth. So you see, all these are for not just a long marriage, but a happy marriage. So they are done on a regular basis. And the Varalakshmi Vrata is a fast performed on Friday before full moon in the month of Shravana. It's a special day to get blessing boon for Goddess Lakshmi. A fast is kept by married women, but women seeking marriage or other boons as well. You see, in India, it used to be always that people prayed for a good spouse, and mostly women was there. Not, but men can do it. It's a equal opportunities life. But they prayed that they would get a good spouse, and they would pray and pray. And then once you got the spouse, then you did the regular, anniversary is very important, regular aspect. But I would say that after listening to my talk, maybe you'd also think about how you are going to nurture and manage your moon in the relationship so that you get the best out of it, so that your mind is more at peace and happy. So that is it for today. And thank you very much. I'm